Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Langrisser Mobile. So right now, Apex is definitely coming to a close. Let's see. Yep, this upcoming weekend we're gonna have the semis, and the finals, and then it's either gonna go straight into point matches the following weekend, or it might go a week off. Kind of depends. Overall, I had reasonable amount of fun with Apex. Angelina was definitely carrying me through a lot of it because a lot of people just didn't know how to handle her extreme mobility and the ability to hit multiple targets and act again and things like that. Unfortunately, the tactic was usually a hit or miss, where either you get the kill and start trading essentially, and then you hopefully win the trades, or you fail to get the kill and you're kind of screwed at that point because Angelina will have no backup. Usually I had to do that because if I let the opponent close in on me, they'll spam AoEs because the meta, of course, is just super AoE heavy. It's gonna still be AoE heavy even when Rosen CL comes out. Though that is definitely a character I'm looking forward to getting. Um, but yeah, overall it's pretty good. But obviously, I want to change things up, and I don't want to constantly rely on the same tactic over and over again and pray it works. It did make matches go pretty quick because usually it's either I won or it's either I got the kill and then my opponent gives up, or I give up. But it doesn't really make for good recordings, to be honest. So I did make multiple videos, multiple attempts to make this video of kind of showing off what my next box is going to be. Originally, I did it before the latest banner came out. But obviously the latest banner was going to change things up, so I went ahead and made the new one, and here we are. So here's our setup so far. So I guess major things was, one is I wanted to go ahead and drop Angelina because I didn't want to rely on her anymore. Dropping Angelina pretty much ensured that I did not need Princess Faction buffers anymore, because anyone else that's Princess Faction can buff themselves or be buffed by Freya. And then the only person that could not be buffed originally was Liana, who had Gospel, so she can buff herself actually, but she's also a healer, so you didn't really need it. There was, of course, her name escapes me. Rosalia, sorry. Rosalia had Chivalry, so she didn't really need the buffs anyway. But I went ahead and dropped her anyway because I was trying to. I say over and over again that I want to go ahead and try Angelica out because she is a time faction buffer, and I'm getting more and more time faction. So I kind of was working around trying to figure out exactly what all I can fit in here. I don't remember if I showed a video where I dropped TRS, but I also dropped TRS and replaced her with Liana. I had videos way back, had comments way back in older videos, around the beginning of the season, where people were asking why I wasn't using Liana, and it was mainly just because I didn't want to rely on her. So TRS is really good, but unfortunately her kit revolves around getting hit and surviving the hit, because that's how her talent works. And a lot of my opponents are either AoE spammers, or they usually use some sort of kit that will either hit me so hard it kills me before the talent triggers, or it hits me really hard and anti-heals me, in which case the talent won't work anyway. So I went ahead and swapped her over for Liana, because Liana has a lot of abilities for cleansing, including a ability to summon a sky archer that essentially can cast Dispel. So that'll help me a little bit in dealing with all the AoE spam that the game's going to be throwing my way. So with that, I kind of got that going, and like I said, with Angelina gone, there was no reason for me to keep any of my Princess Faction buffers. I mean, in most cases, if you saw how my videos went, I pretty much ignored my Princess Faction buffers because, yes, it provides a Princess Faction buff, but I usually had some other way of buffing anyway. And by themselves, Shafaniel and Lana can only do so much. Shafaniel has really powerful AoEs, but she's not very fast or mobile. And in all my situations where I try to use her, she usually just either gets killed by the opponent's AoE, or my opponent just always seems to be just out of range of her AoE, despite the fact that she has the exclusive item that expands her range. Um, I do like having like a build where I can like dispel multiple buffs using like her uh, using her demolish, and then that stacks with, of course, things like her miracle staff or the Vidar's rose. But usually the biggest issue is Landius is the tank I'm usually going up against, and he usually has so many buffs that it's just impossible to peel them all off. So with that, I dropped both the faction buffers, and I was like, okay. Lana was pretty decent. Sometimes she was able to get some nice poke damage in, but she wasn't really a huge threat by herself. I mean, the main reason I would use her is to counteract people's magic damage, which my opponents tend to be more physical now, because Ares and Rien and all them. So, like I said, she just kind of became less and less useful, and a lot of times her 3-cost skill didn't really benefit a lot of my units. So, like I said, I was like, alright, you know what, if she was a flyer, I might have considered keeping her, but I don't intend on switching her to flyer, because, quite frankly, I have plenty of flyers, and I don't want another one. So that kind of leaves us in this situation. Obviously, I'm going to keep Freya. Eventually, she's going to get her SB class, which is going to make her even better. Obviously, I do kind of want to stick with Origin of the Light, so that's why I went and kept Illustrial as kind of the main thing. I definitely want to at least keep one ranged mage, which Young Jessica definitely fulfills that role. Also, Young Jessica can also be a healer in a pinch if need be. Obviously, I can do magic damage with D-Lit as well. D-Lit does I finally got another gift of Eternal Life, which I equipped to her, so now she can actually be kind of a pseudo healer, because every time she attacks, she'll heal somebody, which I think is pretty useful. As of recording this, obviously the new banner came out, as well as Akaya's exclusive weapon. Akaya is only 5 stars, but her exclusive weapon does not count towards the cooldown for her wolves. So literally, I can do back-to-back wolf summons if I can get the kills. Her staff essentially ensures that I'll get at least one wolf, and I can use that to buff everybody's attack and intelligence by 30%, as well as give +2 mobility. So essentially she's kind of like a souped-up Letitia at this point. I do have her set up as a mage, but I won't have any single target skills, so her magic damage is going to be kind of minimum. I wanted to keep most of my assassins for right now, because I want to practice with them more. I'm pretty familiar with how to use Zerida. I haven't really had too many... I didn't really have many opportunities to use Sabame, because it was hitting the end of the season by the time I got her. Illustrial I definitely want to practice more with, especially since I'm going to be sticking with Freya for now. But more than likely, if I am going to be dropping any assassins, I'll probably be Sabame. I am keeping Sherlinka, because Sherlinka's cool, and I really like her style. So yeah, I kind of have 4 assassins right now, though some of them are situational, like Sherlinka and Illustrial. So hopefully that'll give me some variety. I also have another Meteor faction character in the form of Shaltir. I have her set up as a spear. I did change up her gear a little bit as compared to what I had in the Awakening video. I actually gave her Apex. I went and took off Sakura's Apex boots and gave it to Shaltir. Shaltir is super far behind on a chance, and I'm hoping to fix that hopefully before the next season starts. Besides that, she's actually pretty good to go. I think she may be 6 stars by the time the next season starts, and if that does happen, her Apex boots will make it so she moves 6 spaces when she's at full HP. I mean, granted, it can be kind of hard to stay at full HP because of how PvP is, but being able to potentially rush down a Landius from a distance might be pretty cool. Now, supposedly, people will gradually switch Landius over to spears, but at my level of play, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be running into Cavalry more often than not. And like I mentioned, I was trying to get more time faction in so I can actually use Angelica. So as you can see, I did swap in some people. I swapped out Estelle for Albedo. As of recording this, Albedo is 5 stars. It's going to be about a month before she hits 6. Overall, her stats are just amazing compared to what I'm used to. I mean, I'm used to just using Freya, and Freya is an SR, which that means she tends to have lower stats than other SSR tanks. And then, of course, my Estelle's class is more offensive oriented than defense. So I'm hoping to take advantage of Albedo being kind of a really good tank that can guard both at physical and magic. Also, she can guard in a ring without needing a buff. Also, she can self-res. So with all of that, I think she might be very, very useful. Also, I think she's immune to stun, and I have her equipped with items that make it so she can't be anti-healed. So I'm hoping she could be a very good tank for me. But I haven't had any chances to use her yet because obviously I wasn't high enough ranking to be in the finals. So, like I said, I went ahead and swapped her in. I was tempted to keep Estelle and go 3 tanks, but I don't really want to rely on Estelle anymore. She's cool and all, but I don't really. I have enough spears at this point. I mean, I have added in Arian Rod, Shaltir. I still have Freya. I don't need a 4th spear. Speaking of Arian Rod, I've been meaning to use her because I was getting her up to 6 stars. She is 6 stars now, and using her in combination with Angelica can ensure that I have low HP, which will make it so she can get her extra action and proc things like her carbon fiber armor pieces. So I'm hoping to do a little bit of surprise like double AoEs. If I'm going to do any sort of AoEs, it's probably going to be with her. And yeah, looking that's kind of what it's looking at like right now. Angelica, I have her set up as single target, though her main gimmick is of course just going to be buffing people and possibly adding a few summons onto the board. Most people that do use her in any sort of offensive fashion usually take advantage of her line at AoEs, but I don't really care for those. In, I believe, 2 months, Angelica will get her Oracle class, and Oracle class will give her a new unique spell that can let you change a hero's class type, which can be really useful in combat, as well as some other unique buffs. And she also gets access to area heal at that point, which means she can become a faction buffer that can also be a healer in a pinch. And if once that happens, I'll be switching her over to trying to be purely support. But for right now, she's just going to be kind of buffer. She does have what's it called? Attack. Was it attack? Blessing mass or whatever it was called. Actually, I can look it up. I think some of these characters have it. Which character has it? All the way at the bottom. Nope, I passed her. Actually, she's further up the top because she actually has okay stats right now. She has, yeah, mass attack. So even if I don't get my faction buffers, I do have ways of getting at least attack buffs. And like I said, I have a lot of ways of buffing the group now, which I'm hoping to take advantage of as well. Besides that, yeah, there's not... I guess the other thing was I went ahead and stuck with having 3 healers and a dealet for now. But in the case of my healers, only 2 of them are actually like major healers, which is of course Liana and Sophia. And of course Sophia has the ability to passively give kind of pseudo faction buffs with all of her with her exclusive item. So that's another thing. My main thing was making sure I can at least get buffs up. And in this case, I might have even gone a little overboard, but I'll tone that down if I need to. And so, since I was getting so many Dark Faction from things like Shaltir and Albedo, my biggest concern was making sure I have some sort of buff for Albedo. So that would either be a Gossable or a faction buff. So that would be Time Faction or Dark Faction. Lycoris, I'm probably going to go ahead and stick with support for her. A lot of times when I actually try to use her offensively, it just doesn't seem to work for me. I usually don't get very many opportunities to use her offensively, I guess is the situation. So I'm thinking of probably just focusing her purely on support and just taking advantage of the terrain healing to help with things like dispelling and all that good stuff. But yeah, looking at this box, I have Deedlit, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 other healers essentially. But of course, Young Jessica I generally want to use offensively and not as a healer. So I'm hoping the box has a decent amount of flexibility so I could kind of pick what I want. But yeah, Time Faction wise, I think I'm in pretty good shape. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Time Faction, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 Dark Faction, and then of course I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Origins Light, and then of course the rest of them are Meteor Faction with the exception of Liana, who's just kind of, she doesn't really need a faction buff. Things I might consider replacing in the future is eventually I will get a Hilda, and Hilda will give me access to the Tensei faction buff, which will make it a lot easier to kind of maintain things here. At that point, I'll definitely probably do a shuffle here. Rosen Seal is definitely another character I'm interested in. She does have an Empire faction buff, but I'm probably not going to be using her for that if I do bring her in. And more than likely, she's not going to be usable anyway because she's going to be 3 stars more than likely, and I'm not going to be able to get her up to 6 stars anytime soon. So this might be what I'm going to be sticking with for now. If it doesn't work out, I can always drop a character and bring back Estelle if I somehow need more buffs. If I'm lacking in like offensive power, I can always drop a healer or a pseudo healer and replace her with somebody else. I'm not exactly sure who at the moment. I could always bring back Rosalia or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of what the box is looking at right now. By the time the next season starts, Shaltir will be 6 stars. It's going to be about a month before Albedo is 6 stars, unless I get lucky within the next couple of weeks. The next major banner is going to have Rosen Seal. I definitely want her. I also need Clotaire, who's going to take care of Bonds. And then I need both characters from the next banner after that, and I believe the banner after that is where Hilda is at. And I think I need also Werner from that as well. So these next few months there are a lot of key banners I need to take care of. Once those are out of the way, though, I'll have a few months off where I don't actually need anything from the upcoming banners. So it's definitely going to be a busy few months as I kind of figure out what exactly I want to do for Apex. But this is what I have so far. Some characters I may consider dropping is Young Jessica, Illustrial, maybe Tsubame, but I want to try her out first and see how she plays. And I just want to get more practice using assassins and trying to get used to just relying on single target stuff. A real key thing I need is the ability to take out Landius, because Landius is kind of the tank I'm going to be dealing with the most because I always ban Juggler. So I'm hoping Shaltir will fulfill that role. My Shaltir is equipped with, I believe, a Peacemaker right now, which will negate the self-res if it does proc. It's only 50-50 though. But I'm hoping to maybe take advantage of that, or possibly get in a situation where I can proc Blood Frenzy and just double tap him. Originally my way of killing Landius was relying on Claret, but Claret just doesn't do enough damage anymore, and Thorns is a problem as well. So we'll see how it goes. One thing I definitely kind of want for Young Jessica in the future is there's a staff that actually expands your attack range even further. If I can get that staff, I believe I can have like 6 range single target skills, which would be kind of neat. But for now, I just kind of have to use what I got. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I am still working on getting the stars up on Florentia. I do kind of want to use her in the future, especially once I get Hilda. And once I get her and have an actual faction buff for her, she can definitely give me a lot of flexibility on the battlefield because of all of her fancy little command skills and things like that. But that's pretty much it on the Apex front. Like I said, I had pretty good fun. I just want to try to change things up. I fully expect to do horrible on my placement matches because that's usually how it goes, especially when I use a new box. But besides that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I did get some comments as well as messages in-game asking me whether or not I would be willing to do a guild merger. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I'm only guild leader by default. This is not even the guild I'm leading is not the guild I made. But apparently everyone that was a guild leader and or vice officer or whatever it was, vice leader, they all became inactive. Except for me, who was one of who later on became vice leader. And eventually, once you get to a certain point of inactivity, the members of your guild can actually demote the guild leader and give it to somebody else. And they gave it to me because I was the most active at the time. And so I'm guild leader. I think I have given one person vice leader just in case. But for the most part, all I do is I make sure guild battle is up, and that is it. I do post messages from time to time, just reminding people of events and things like that. But beyond that, there's pretty much no communication in my guild, and I don't really care to do anything with it besides just make sure that the roster stays reasonably full, so we meet the guild battle requirements. And yeah, if there's if we get people, I gradually just boot out people who've been inactive, and that's about it. So as far as like doing guild merges and stuff, I just don't care enough to actually bother with any of that stuff. You're certainly free to join my guild if you want. I'm not going to even tell you the name of it. If you happen to find it, and you are interested in being a guild that does nothing but guild battle and rarely speaks, then yeah, enjoy. I mean, obviously, the only reason I'm even part of a guild is just for the rewards. I don't really have much care for online guilds and stuff like that. I've had my fill of that from MMOs. So, like I said, I'm the guild leader by default. I don't really have any interest in doing guild mergers, but by all means, if you want to join, feel free. Otherwise, you know, have fun with the game. So, I am the Depressed Dior. This was Langrisser Mobile, Apex, and other rambling nonsense. See you guys next time.